Welcome back to the CLYDE FC Podcast, brought to you by the, again, multi-award-winning State of Mind. We are back after 3 weeks following both a personal and league-enforced international break, as we are going to look back, break down both the good and the bad that we have witnessed in the first quarter of league fixtures, which has now been completed. Joining me tonight, we have the usual crew. We have Mr. John Boyce and, of course, the best photographer in the land, Craig Black. How are we doing, gentlemen?
I'm good, aye.
Aye, not too bad. Glad to be back.
Only good after that intro, Craig. Come on.
I know.
You must be buzzing.
Absolutely, now.
Yeah, just before we got on to all matters, Clyde, and as well, I should say that Lynn will also be joining us, but she's just currently getting herself ready. Before we do crack on to all things Clyde, as I mentioned in my elaborate intro there, the platform and the production team we use, the State of Mind guys, have yet again knocked the ball out the park and scored another triple award for their AXOM podcast, the Celtic State of Mind. Just like to pass on all our congratulations. I would say it's a remarkable feat, but when you actually see the talent that is there, not just Paul, but all the contributors to that particular piece and all the folks at A State of Mind, I don't think it's that remarkable. I think it's pretty much deserved. So well done, guys. So on to all Clyde matters. As I mentioned, it's been 3 weeks since we last got round a virtual table and talked all things Clyde. And it was just before we were due to head up to the Kingdom of Fife as we faced the then and still bottom East Fife. There was some fear, Boyce, coming to yourself, that the away form was going to haunt us once more. However, if the performance wasn't great, the result was.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, I'm glad to see that we all survived the trip to the Kingdom, so that's fantastic. Yeah, the away form, it's not been great. That's probably going back a few seasons now. But listen, we got the win. A dodgy first half performance, to say the least. Not much else to talk about in the first half, or the first kind of 20 minutes of the second. But for me, Taddy made a big difference, and of course the match winner, Ross Cunningham. I'd asked a couple of weeks ago who steps in when David Goodwill is not on form. There he is. Ross Cunningham steps up with 2. So great game, bit of magic from Ross, and excellent contribution from Taddy.
Taddy was huge when he came on, wasn't he? Again, just ruffled him up at the back again.
Yeah, he's somewhat uncompromising in his style at times, but I think he's got the brain as well. I think for the second goal, we'll come to it in a wee bit more detail. Whilst the defending was far from great, if you're an East Fife fan, from our perspective, the patience, Taddy didn't panic. He didn't just clip a ball in for the sake of it. He waits for the overlap and duly obliged by Barry. Looking at the overall performance over the 90 minutes, obviously, again, probably our Achilles heel, it wasn't a 90 minutes performance, Boyce. But do you feel over the piece we did enough to deserve the 3 points, or was it maybe more a draw in your eyes?
I don't know. I think we probably just edged the win. I think it was one of those ones where a piece of magic was going to change the game, and Ross Cunningham came up with that. Where I've just got it in my notes. Cunningham smashes one in from 25 yards. Lovely. That's pretty much how you sum it up. I think over the piece, we didn't defend well. I think we were all over the place in the first half, and we're a bit more solid in the second half, but that wouldn't have been hard, I don't think. But Taddy certainly changed the game for me. He came on in the 70th minute and we scored in the 73rd and 77th. So an immediate impact going down the right-hand side, and it's great to see Gregory fit, and clearly Harry's defenders, as we saw in the Queen's Park game as well when he came on. So definitely a plus going forward, and him and Jonesy along with Goodwill, he's quite a good front three, I think.
Good stuff. Sorry, Boyce, Lynn is now with us, so we'll just get her added in, get an extra voice to proceedings. Thanks for joining us, Lynn. We haven't been bad-mouthing you, honest.
Sorry, I've been too busy bad-mouthing my hairdryer that decided to blow cold air as I was trying to dry my hair, hence why I mean,
we all managed to get ours sorted.
I know.
You're just showing off for having enough hair to blow dry. Just on our initial comments, Mark Stewart has just commented as well on the Celtic game being really good. I think it's better than really good. I think it's phenomenal. And Blue Eyes, evening lads, thanks for joining us, Blue Eyes. And anyone wish to get involved, if you've watched the Clyde game, let us know what you thought of it in the first quarter. We are going to be breaking it down once we have a quick run through of the last two games that saw the quarter of fixtures end. We've just been covering the East Fife game, Lynn, so I've got the boys' initial impressions. Come back to the kind of questions I asked them. Do you feel that the 3 points were merited over the 90 minutes? It was a bit hot and cold again from the Bully Bee.
I think it's been fairly consistent with some of our performances so far this season, and apologies if I'm repeating anything that's already been said, but it was almost a tale of two halves really. Like first half it was pretty poor, to be honest. I thought particularly wee you and Devaney didn't have a good first half, struggled a wee bit to kind of keep pace with the game, and then we kind of we seemed to kind of take stock of that at half time, and we kind of came out and we didn't come out all guns blazing by any means, but it was better. And obviously, but Ross Cunningham took one great strike and obviously took another great chance as well. And I think overall, over the piece, I think the 2 goals were merited from our second half performance. I just thought East Fife were really, really poor. I think they could be obviously really struggling if they kind of continue with these sort of performances this season. But yeah, I very welcome 3 points, and I think our performance in the second half definitely merited the 3 points.
I think we probably all agree that East Fife could have had a couple of goals if they had their better shooting boots on in the first half, because they did create a few chances, but they were put well wide or well over or blocked, which is a worry for our point of view, and probably a worry for their point of view as well. But certainly the second half, I think when Ewan get put into left midfield, when Adam came on, that made us a lot more solid and a lot more threatening, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think what concerned me, and I know we discussed it at half time between us, but there was a lot of similarities to the Peterhead game in the sense that the performance for the first half is very, very similar. The only difference being that there wasn't 5 goals shared at East Fife. The defending in the first half was hear him, scare him stuff at times. It really was. We were our own worst enemy at times again, boys, weren't we?
Yeah, the defending throughout the season's just been poor. You know, there's been penalties given away or given the ref an opportunity to make decisions, and the silly mistakes have probably cost us points that could have seen us up at the top of the table, to be honest. Mark Stewart's got a couple of comments. Think that no one could complain if we were only on 5 points. Montrose, Alloa, Cove, Queen's Park and East Fife, 1 from each. I think in the Clyde support there probably could be a few that would complain. And sorry, take that Montrose point out, so 4 points. So the theme of tonight for me would be that, you know, the league is a very tight one. And I think that Danny's got the boys set up to go into each game treating it almost as a cup final, because no team has consistency and every team can beat the other one. So I think it's been one-off games until teams start really finding that consistency. And the facts are that we're on 11 points, we're 3 points off second, and we're 2 points off ninth. So the league's ridiculous. But yeah, I think where we are just now, I don't think anyone would argue that you would take that at the start of the season, you know, 3 points off second.
I have to say, see from that comment, from the Alloa game, we thoroughly deserved our 3 points. The Cove game, we thoroughly deserved our 3 points. And I feel we should have won the Queen's Park game. So actually, I don't agree with that point whatsoever, hence my face when that comment get read out. I don't think that's not my opinion at all. I would definitely complain if we were only on 4 points. from those games, to be honest. If anything, I think we should be on more from some of the points dropped. So if in essence, that obviously kind of takes to the point that obviously our performances haven't been great. We have obviously been letting in goals where we shouldn't have, but I definitely think if anything, we're on less points than what we deserve.
Yeah, and as Mark's just followed up, and it's all about opinions. Agree to disagree.
Absolutely.
And that's what this platform's about. It's about opinions, it's about discussion, and it's about being open to those discussion points. I think, and I know that this word luck has come into a lot of the kind of discussions when we're kind of jumping ahead, but we will come back to looking at the Airdrie game. When you look at the kind of write-ups of the matches, say the matches that we've won, for example, and that there's a degree of luck, but there's luck in every football game.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's luck every time that you're left unmarked at the back post to tap home. You're lucky because the left back's not doing his job or a centre half's turned off. There's luck in every element of football. Now, sometimes you get more luck, and especially in Scottish football's concerned, certain teams appear to get more. But that's just one of these things. Football is a lucky game. You can hit a shot, it could go into the sea. You could hit a shot, it goes into the top corner. So I do get with some of the performances, you could say, yeah, that was really, really close.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, you look at the Peterhead game, for as honking as we were for 25 minutes, we should have come down the road with a point, but we didn't.
Yep.
In my opinion, we were unlucky to do so. So there's been a degree of bad luck, but we've had some good luck too. So I do agree that there's a balance there to be met, I think
one of the things we should be looking at as Clyde fans is we've played the big boys of the league so far, if you want to call them that, as Queen's Park, Cove Rangers. Falkirk are the only ones that have really given us a problem. Mm-hmm. We've dealt with Cove Rangers and their two big strikers, who is probably the most potent strike force in Scotland at the moment. Mm-hmm. You've got Queen's Park, who are heavily bankrolled, and they'd be looking to go up to the Championship this year. We played well against them, so we might not be playing well for 90 minutes, but we're doing enough to get results. And I think we should be focusing on that rather than, if we don't get this result, what could it have meant? Let's look at what's happened. Where are we? We're mid-table, looking at a Championship playoff spot if we do well.
Ultimately, and maybe a cliche, it's a weekly cliche time for the CLYDE FC podcast. The aim of the game is to score more than the opponents. If they do it, if we do it, you win the game. It doesn't really matter ultimately. Then if you've played honking, like we have won games when we got promoted in that season a couple of years back, and we weren't great, but we got the job done. Nobody complained then. I would even say if you look at the games we beat Falkirk when we beat them 3 times in the one season, I can think of the 2 games at home in particular. If it wasn't for the performances of David Mitchell,
definitely
we wouldn't have won those games. We'd probably been lucky to draw them.
100%.
So if you think
look,
that's only 2 years ago, so I think there's got to be a degree that we can't just lump the current squad and say, if they're lucky to win a game, that's it, they're just luck merchants. You've still got to give praise where it's due. If you score more goals than the opponent, you've done the aim of the game when that first whistle's blown.
Yeah, and we'll come on to
season. Like squads have changed, but in essence, around the club, what else has changed to sway people's opinions that way? We were happy to take those results against Falkirk where there was an element of luck, whereas now it's like, we were so lucky, we shouldn't have, we're lucky to get a point, or we're lucky to get 3 points. Like, I don't understand that mentality. Maybe
just people's expectations have risen as well. They're expecting a lot more from what we're getting or what they've had. They've had that high the promotion season and wanting more and hungry for that success, but that's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen in a league where you've got, if you've mentioned, a bankrolled Queen's Park, a full-time Cove, a full-time Falkirk, a semi-full-time Airdrie. You are up against difficult teams, and so far against those teams we've done well. It's against the other teams away from home we've not done so well.
Yeah,
for balance as well.
Craig. Sorry, Paul. I think just one thing to say on this. What is it that wins leagues and gets promotions? Is it performances or points?
Well, obviously we all want both, but We'll take
I'd rather
we'll take
take the
points all day long. All day long.
We've seen it with the Scotland games the other night.
Yeah,
Like, we'd happily
exactly.
take the points all day long. Like, we even
Right.
said that obviously the game on Tuesday night, like, don't care about the performance, just give us the points, because
Yep.
Scotland obviously so many times over the years have not performed amazingly well and still not taking points. So,
Yep.
like, give me points any day of the week. I know that's a slightly different analogy there because we're talking about international football, and sorry for swaying into that, but yeah, absolutely would take the points over the performance at times. That's
Right.
what people win leagues, they grind out results.
Yep, definitely.
Exactly. Okay, so we went slightly off track there. That's not like us whatsoever, is it, guys?
Imagine.
We'll wrap up East Fife. Ultimately, it was, as we touched upon, another mixed bag when it comes to Clyde. Mark mentioned there's not really been a 90-minute performance. I think on the whole, I would agree with that. This was definitely one to certainly put in that column. It wasn't our finest hour, but you know what? You go up the road when you've won only 3 or 4 away games since we've reached League One. I mean, that's how poor the away form has been.
Yep.
That you take it. You take it.
Yep.
Down
And
the road.
And you're blessed with another wonderful, wonderful goal. That was a fantastic hit.
Sorry, I think there was a wee bit of sound interference there, guys. I'm not sure if anyone else picked up on that. Yeah. Apologies if that blasted into anyone's ears. The follow-up, now I was, and going by some of the write-ups, fortunate to miss it, was away to Airdrie. Mark, you've kind of mentioned in the comments it was unfortunately another kind of disastrous away performance at the, I don't even know what it's called now. Is it the Excelsior Stadium? The Shiber Excelsior. Airdrie Ground, we'll just call it for the purposes of this. Now, it's beyond frustrating now that we just can't follow up a positive result with another one. Boys, they come to yourself. Were you surprised to see us not pick up at least a point away to Airdrie?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you guys lead on this one because I wasn't actually at the game and haven't looked at the highlights due to just being busy outside the Clyde. But from looking at it from the... What's that?
Neither were Paul and we were away. So
that's true.
Truth be told, I was at a wedding.
Right, we'll try and dissect this between the four of us. So yeah, just looking at it from the updates, I think poor start, conceding early. And then one positive from it was that our god and captain David Goodwillie hits his first penalty after the Queen's Park miss, and it goes in. So good to see that. But again, looking at some of the comments online, poor defending from the second. I believe it might have been Splain losing possession, but he's just coming back from injury and maybe is a bit off the pace at the moment. Try to get his playmaking skills in the middle, but. Yeah, Airdrie's a difficult place to go. They're a hybrid, full-time, part-time team. Get some good players. It's progress from last season's drubbings, I'll say that. But
they've been similar to us though. They've had some good results and then
not
some
a good start
after it
for the season for them. Yep.
It's been up and down as it has with a lot of the clubs in the league this season.
Yeah, it's the Pennycar Stadium. Thanks, Mark, for correcting us. The Pennycar Stadium. We got there in the end, guys. So I've taken all my notes here from the kind of official match report and the different online kind of write-ups that you've seen of the game. And I think for the first half, it seemed pretty even. But both teams going level, both with chances to score. The second half, very much a different affair. Pretty much all Airdrie, with only really Matty Ellsden, I think, threatening with a header to potentially equalise again. But by all accounts, a very comfortable afternoon. And as far as 2-1 results goes, pretty straightforward for Airdrie, sadly. Lynn, would you agree?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think went in probably with higher expectations because we'd managed to finally get that away win at East Fife. I thought it might have boosted a bit of confidence and I thought, kind of as what Craig said, Airdrie have had spits and starts as well. They're a bit inconsistent, so I kind of hoped we were hitting them at a lower run of form as well for them. So when we were obviously kind of hearing when we were away that they'd taken the lead and then we obviously equalised fairly quickly afterwards from Goody. It was quite disappointing to then obviously learn that we ended up kind of losing and didn't get ourselves back into it. Kind of almost quite not similar to Peterhead, so it doesn't sound like a similar performance, but I was kind of hoping from not seeing the performance that you were hoping that you were going to still see flash up maybe this luck that everybody's saying we're riding on. Like I was hoping for a bit of luck that would have got an equaliser, but obviously not to be. But yeah, totally is what John says. Like it's at least it's progression from last season with the 5-0 or 5-1 drubbing that we got. It is disappointing that we didn't at least pick up a point. I was hoping to kind of build upon the week before, but not to be.
Yeah, I don't think any of us sitting here obviously want to see Clyde drop points, and we're not happy with just progressing from a 5-1 to a 2-1.
That would definitely be clutching at straws, I think.
Yeah, but I think we've got to take everything into account this season. The league that we're in. It's a competitive league. There's very good teams in it, and I think we've got to be realistic about our expectations. I don't know, guys that are watching, if you want to put your expectations for Clyde in the season in the chat, and we can bounce off that. But I would definitely take mid-table with how things are going just now. There's not one team that's shown a solid bit of form, and I think when we play well, we can beat everyone, but we've also got that defence that needs a bit of work. So it's literally just game after game, seeing what happens at the moment. I don't really have an answer to what's happening.
I think part of it is the expectations that we all got from the pre-season that we had, because the pre-season games that we played some wonderful, in my opinion, wonderful football. And we looked really, really threatening, really comfortable, great shape, great movement, great passing, good goals. And then we played Dumbarton and get stuffed 3-0. I don't know if some of that expectation's still there with us as well.
Yeah, I mean, Dumbarton, they've had a fantastic start to the season. Really impressed with them.
Surprise.
Stevie Farrell. They're
totally
playing some
surprise.
Good football and find themselves up the top. But
same breath, they did lose their last game to second bottom Peterhead 5-0.
Yep.
So
exactly.
it just shows you what type of league we're in. On the consistency front, and I have a raft of stats for you as we break down the Q1. When you look at that performance in isolation, it's mad. It's mad. But Queen's Park are top, and they've won 4 games out of their 9. That's only one more than us. And they're undefeated in the league. They're undefeated. No. They've drawn their other 5.
Why are we not on Sky Sports? This League One.
I don't know.
Other football sports shows are available, but
I like to think I think surely I've got a better coupon than Jamie Carragher. Or is that maybe
so let's move on quickly.
No, but it does show you that's a crazy start when you think we are one win less than them and they're top of the league, and look how close we were to beating them as well.
Exactly.
Again, we gave them a penalty, so yeah, it's mad. I tell you what, I know I do the odd coupon and stuff, but I never touch League One. Not that I win any anyway, but
you need to know if you're a better man, don't you?
You just couldn't.
Right. Okay. So will we start breaking this down then?
Yeah.
So we have kind of touched upon it. We'll come to who am I going to pick on first? Lynn. Pick on you first. So before we look at specific matches and or moments, what's been your overall impression of the season to date? And if you can maybe compare it to where you thought we would have been at this stage, or where you would have hoped we would have been at this stage.
So the expectations for me was I was hoping for around sort of mid-table by now-ish. Wasn't quite expecting the league to be as tight as what it was. I thought by now Queen's Park and Falkirk would have started kind of to do a big bit of a breakaway. So not to be, which is great. Obviously, it's made it really competitive. From our perspective, performances, it's kind of a mixed bag. Like, I kind of completely, obviously, as I've said already, completely disagreed with earlier comments that we should have only had 4 points like from certain games. Like if anything, that Peterhead game, as you'd mentioned, Paul, I think we'd have been unlucky to get an extra point there, and we were unlucky to not get an extra point at an extra couple of points against Queen's Park, say for example. So from that perspective, things have been disappointing. It's firepower wise, Goody's just been on fire, and we've been scoring goals, like which has been pleasing, but unfortunately it's been the defence that's almost sort of let things down. I think Matty Ellsden coming in has shored things up a wee bit there. I'm kind of hoping that starts to kind of completely cement itself a bit more, having like his partnership with Conrad, for example, with Rumsby, because they seem to be kind of our kind of strongest three there. But it's been okay, but could do better. Really, it's hard. Like I don't want to be completely pessimistic, because I'm not that pessimistic a person. I'm an optimist, or somebody would like to term a happy clapper. I like to look at the positives of all these things, but I think we're slightly behind where I would have liked to have been. But overall, I'm pleased given how the league is actually panning out, because we're not obviously that far off in terms of where I'd hoped to be. Like, we're only probably like a point or 2 points off, like, mid-table. So from that perspective, I really can't complain. But yeah, defence could be better, and okay, but could do better, almost as if you were saying that per like a teacher's report or something, like.
I was going to say a solid B-.
Yeah, yes, or a C+. Yeah, that's how I would kind of sum things up, to be honest.
Right, okay, Boise, take us back. What was in your report card at school when they created to Clyde?
You don't want to know, mate. So yeah, this first quarter, we look at, and I'm going to steal some of your stats here, Paul. Scoring's clearly not a problem. We're second. We've scored one less goal than Queen's Park. So David Goodwillie, fantastic player. There is a slight worry that if he's off the boil, where are the goals going to come from? I know Ross Cunningham's put a couple in against East Fife, but that's East Fife. They've not been doing pretty well. Defending is clearly the issue we've had at the start of the season. That 3-0 drubbing to Dumbarton, everyone, including myself, were like, where did that come from? We've had a good pre-season. I agree with Craig. I think we played some nice football. Gomez in the middle looked pretty spectacular in the Broadwood Cup games. Obviously can't take too much from pre-season, but it was a good indicator as to where we might have been. Unfortunately, I've not replicated that, or if we have, it's been for 10-15 minutes in spells where we've not really taken anything. The penalty situation that we find ourselves in, I think we've given away 5 or 6 penalties in 9 games. It's not good enough. We really need to address that moving forward. Silly mistakes as well. I looked at it before we came on, and I think we would be 3 or 4 points better off, which would put us second or third if we'd cut out the silly mistakes. Again, that's all ifs and buts. The facts are we are where we are. Consistency we've spoke about. If there's any team that's going to be consistent, I've still to see it. I think everyone's just finding their feet just now. And we've had difficulty with injuries. Ali Love being out for 3 or 4 games, that's been a big miss, I think. He's a big character, and he certainly drags us through games where we might be struggling. And I've got some key results which I'll touch on later that kind of, I think, show how we've progressed throughout the season, and because of the way things have went, regressed as well. But I think the biggest thing for me is changing to the 3 at the back, because that was a necessity. We were absolutely shipping goals early on, had to do something, and Matty Ellsden coming in has been fantastic. That's been the real positive for me so far, apart from David Goodwillie scoring his goals, obviously. So similar to Lynn, I think we could do better, but we've certainly improved on the early issues that we had coming in. I would have thought that we would be maybe mid-table at this stage, and that's where we are, maybe mid-table. So I'm quite pleased with where we are. Performances can certainly do better, but I really don't see why we should not, and I've said it once, and I'll say it again, I don't see why we shouldn't be pushing for that 4th spot in a league that's as inconsistent as this. If we find some form, which David Goodwillie spoke about in his interview, the boys are feeling, the inconsistency just now, and they really want to sort it. So if they can get that sorted and we get a few wins under our belt, are the other teams going to pick up form and move forward? We don't know. All we can do is focus on ourselves and win the next game in front of us. So a B- for me in the report card scale.
And finally, Craig, we'll come to yourself. Are you going to go along this theme of Jekyll and Clyde rather than Jekyll and Hyde?
I don't think we can
Have
avoid it.
you been sitting on that all week?
I have, mate.
It's quite good though. I like that.
I like that as well, I've got to say. That's good for you.
I don't think we can avoid it. That's a fact. I've taken a couple of notes and I'm running down earlier on the pre-season expectations that we got, and then we got, just looking at the league, we get a 3-0 loss, and then the high of two last minute goals against Montrose. We're celebrating a draw. We get the Broomhill defeat, which was a big low. We lost Ali Love to injury at that point. Then you get a late winner against Alloa, so you're back up. Then you get an absolute flat as an egg performance against Falkirk and get cuffed 3-0. I don't think they'll have ever an easier game than that all season. And then we beat Cove 2-1. And then we have a collapse at Peterhead. And then we have a great game against Queen's Park again. Not win it. There we go, celebrating a draw with a last minute goal. And then we go away to East Fife and have a decent result. Not a great performance, decent result, and then you lose to Airdrie. So it is really.
So then we'll win tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's not me dancing, guys. I'm not dancing here. It's
bits and
the holiday
bits. I mean, it's been like that the whole campaign so far. We've been up and down and up and down and up and down with a couple of wonderful results in it along the way. A couple of great goals, a couple of last minute dramas, and a couple of real poor performances in that mix. League table wise, where should we be? Well, we are where we are. I think I'm a mix of both of what you guys were saying. I was expecting us to be roughly at the position we are, but I thought there would be a bigger gap from us to the top and a bigger gap from us to the bottom than there is. I thought the league would have stretched out at both ends. And I think that's making it, well, all right, we've been inconsistent. Everybody has, and we're all sick of saying it. But we're not out yet on either end of the table, which can only be hopefully a positive thing for us.
Yeah, and I think it's all about, at this stage, you take the positive and the negatives and you refocus and you build on what's went wrong and what has went well. Now, looking at some of the stats, and this is purely looking at the league form, we're going to just discard the League Cup campaign and even the Broadwood Cup. So looking purely at the league kind of stats. So goals forward at 13, so that's one less as we've touched upon than Queen's Park. Get the same record scored as Airdrie, Falkirk and Montrose, tomorrow's visitors. So that's right up there with the best in the league. I actually think it's Dumbarton who are the top goal scorers in the league, Boise, because they've had a few scuds.
Because they put 3 past us.
And us, yeah. And on that, goals against 17, which is the second worst in the league. Only East Fife having a worst defensive record. The problem is there. It's staring us all in the face. But these are fine margins, and these can be improved upon. Boise, you mentioned the introduction of Matty Ellsden. It's a bit of a thing, and he has helped things. There are still issues there defensively. I would argue, and I don't think this is a point to argue, our strength is in attack. If anyone disagrees with that, when it comes to Clyde, I would kind of question what squad you're looking at. We have the best striker in the league, if not the top, championship Europe as well. Yeah, Europe. I mean, he should have been in the Scotland squad for the Faroes game and Israel, etc. That's hyperbole. Never.
Dykes out, good day in.
Yeah. So, he's suspended for the next game, so you never know. So yeah, the strength is in attack, but I'm going to put another couple of wee stats to you. In fact, it's a question to you, and if anyone wants to get involved in the comments, please do. So in the league this season, who is the club's top assist? Who tops the charts for assists for Clyde Football Club this season.
I thought you were going to say just assists in general, because it would be Scott Rumsby for the opposition. But
Barry Cuddy.
Yep.
It's a tough one, this.
Ross
Goody.
Cunningham.
Good Willie.
Yep. Cunningham, I should say there's two, right? So Ross Cunningham is one. I will caveat that a bit by saying that the SPFL...
Ballatoni.
It's Conrad Ballatoni.
Aye, there you go.
So we do... we've got the best striker in the league. We're not really creating enough for him when you think about it. If our centre half is our main goal threat, main assist maker in the team, that something really has to give there, in my opinion. Ross Cunningham does have 3 according to CLYDE stats, so the SPFL, I think I've only accredited him with 2 league assists. I'm not sure where the discrepancy is there. If you were to go one step down, and then there are only other 2 players in the current Clyde squad that have got an assist to their name this season, can you name them?
Good Willie has.
Goody is, yep, he has 1. And the last one, I'll give you a clue, got us a point. He set up Ali Love.
Explain.
Aaron
Jones?
Splain. Jones has 1 in the cup competitions, but purely from a league perspective, there are only 4 Clyde players with assists to their name. And to me, that is a big issue. For as bad as the kind of defence has been at points, and we've shipped very, very silly goals, if we were just to improve on that front, you create chances for Goody, he is going to score. Boys, come to yourself, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, Goody's probably in the peak of his career just now. You know, he's said in his interview he's scoring for fun. He's enjoying his football, and for me, he looks fitter than he's ever been. You know, he's running well and he's strong. So I think he's definitely scoring goals. Would getting him more service allow him to score more goals? I don't know, because he finds himself in positions all the time. He creates stuff for himself. My big thing is having a backup for him when he's not there and he's not on song, because we see it so many times, or we've seen it so many times in the past with Clyde, when key players are injured, sometimes it doesn't go well when there's nobody to step up. And in a league like this one this year, we can't afford that. So Jonesy, you know, he tries, he does well. He's not maybe scored that many goals, but maybe he's not that type of player. Goodwillie in his interview on the website said that he's enjoying playing with Jonesy and Taddy because he enjoys playing with big guys that he can, you know. I think in a way, Goody was just saying he likes them to do the battling and he can just feed off the scraps, which it's fine with me. But yeah, I think we would probably need to focus on the back in January, to be honest, to improve the squad, because going forward, I think, as you've said, we've got it sorted. I don't necessarily think that we need to provide Goody with any more ammunition. He's certainly getting it. He's in good form. I did have a wee point on the defending, if I can put that back to you, Paul. So on the giving away of penalties and just silly mistakes, mainly on the penalties, do you think it's a case of bad luck, poor refereeing, or the fact that football's just become quite soft?
I know, I think.
Craig wants to put this question. No, so that we don't get cut off here, I will take it in Craig's place. We've had a good year on the podcast. I don't want it to end now. I wouldn't put it down to bad luck per se. I think there's maybe been 1 or 2 penalties of the softer variety. There's certain penalties I just would not question. I think they're stonewallers. I find it difficult to defend some of them. So I would say that there's there's got to be an element of bad defending with some of them. We're not dealing with simple situations. If you look at Falkirk away, I know there's some people that dispute how much contact there was when the boys run round the blind side of Scott Rumsby. But ultimately, you clear that ball and it's not an issue in the first place. There was a wee kind of hesitation. That ball should be over the fence and heading towards the Kelpies, quite frankly. Unfortunately, Scott hesitated and it was a penalty kick. It was game over. So I don't necessarily put it down to bad luck. You sometimes make your own luck. And in that case, we were the kind of masters of our own downfall. We do like doing that.
Yeah,
I think
we do.
Defensively, though, I think we've had a big shuffle losing Mitchell and then bringing in Parry. And that's going to take a bit of time for Parry and Ellsden and Rumsby and Conrad to get that communication the way probably they're wanting it. Or hopefully it will get better and better as we go on and make us a bit more solid. But that's been a major factor for me as well. There's been that shuffle. And you've had, I think, when you're talking about creativity, you've lost Ali Love for a good portion of the last few games as well, which we all know what he can bring to a team. It's not even just that final pass. It can be the lead off. It can be the run that can create a gap, and it can just be the instruction and shouting to the boys round about him to guide them through it. You know.
Yeah, he's a driving force.
Yeah.
If vocally, if nothing else.
Yep.
He never shies away, does Ali? He will always show for the ball. If he's having a bad game, he will never hide. Just a couple of comments coming in. John Higgins, thanks for joining us. John, even though no team will storm away in front this season, top and bottom will go to the last week or two. The reality is we're in League One, not the Premier, so we need to bear that in mind. Yeah, I think it's all about that balance and realising, yeah, we are League One, we're a part-time team. Realistically, where can we go when you look at the spending power of some of the teams that are in the league this year and even last year, when you think obviously we did have our friends from across Glasgow and the likes of Falkirk, etc. These guys have got, compared to us, absolute bags and bags of cash that they can spend on the squad. Mm-hmm. Robin is asking a great question here. Just we'll quickly throw this out to you, saying panel. I like getting called a panel. How many goals will DGW get this year? Lynn, are you going to nail your cards to the mast? Tell us how many goals is Goody bagging?
Yeah,
prize at the end of the season.
As long as he stays fit, I think he could easily get to 25. Easy.
Right, okay. Hey, Boise, you going to go for it?
You're all sitting down. That's good. He's on pace for 40 goals. Let's go with 40.
Right.
Ballon
d'Or. A wee bit Boise have tempered it.
Right. 40.
I'm just going with the stats, Lynn. That's what he's
I do like a stat, so.
Right, John Higgins is going for 23. Craig, what are you going for?
I'm going to go 26. I think 26. That he's due a hat-trick or two this season.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with 27, but only if the guys behind them start giving him more assists, as I was referring to earlier on.
You just need to start looking at stats more.
Oh, that's exactly right, Boise. That's exactly right. So, another couple of stats we'll go with, right? And I know that the opinion, dare I say, is mixed with the performances, etc. so far. Results, however, don't lie. Now, we have lost 4 out of the 9 games, or 44%, if you like percentages, which, if you want to flip it, means that we have been undefeated in 56% of our league games. Yes, we've only won 3 of those other 5 games, but it's not all bad. You've got to look at the positives. For us to push on, if we're going to constantly hark on, yeah, this was bad and this was bad, I don't think we progress. I think we need to really say, yeah, we could have been better. Let's really push on behind the boys. I don't doubt for a second that anyone who's maybe been unhappy with the level of performances isn't backing the boys one iota. Like, please do not take what I'm saying here as that. I just think, yeah, the first quarter's done. Let's look at what was good and what was bad, and let's see what the boys can do now. Let's reach for that bit of progression. Lynn, coming to yourself, what's been the key positives then? Not just looking at specific results, but has there been some kind of key performers, or I know we're going to say good, Willie. Let's take David out the equation, right? Who else has been the kind of stand out for yourself on a positive front?
On a positive front, I think we've touched upon him already, but Matty Ellsden, for me, has been a positive since he's been introduced into the backline. He's been a standout, and Splain's had a good, when he's been on it, like he's been on fire, like he's kind of unplayable when he's playing that well. Again, same with Ross Cunningham, when he's on a game, like he's just unplayable as well. So they're the kind of key, they've been the sort of key men for me out with Goody. I would just like to kind of see a bit more consistency from them. Also, as we're talking about, obviously the assist front, they would be more the kind of Cunningham and Splain there for me would be key for getting Goody more goals, or even kind of chipping in with a couple more themselves, as Ross did at East Fife. So yeah, they're the kind of key men for me.
Yeah, Mark Stewart in the comment is saying obviously about Barry Cuddihy. To me, Barry is Mr. Consistent. If there's one thing, you can put Barry in midfield, you can put him at right back, and he's going to be a good shift. Craig, what about yourself? Who've been the kind of the main guys that have kind of shown, maybe if it's not always been
out with Goody? I think Conrad was really good to start with, then had a dip, and then when we went to that back three, back five, has been outstanding. I think he's been a massive input to that. Really impressed with him. I'm even in possession. I can't remember, was it the Cove or who it was who played the ball straight through for Goody to take on, and
Cove,
it was Cove. That was brilliant. He shouted on him and away it went. It wasn't just a punt, it was a great measured pass, and I think that's something that will help us through the course of this season that we didn't have in maybe the last couple, where we've got, and Danny went for more experience. I'm wanting to see a lot more for Gomez. I think he can. When we signed him, I thought that was a wow moment. I think he was brilliant with Falkirk, and he's had a cracking career. But I'm looking to see more from him. That might be down to Splain and Kennedy round about him getting more involved and getting more consistent with him. But for me, Conrad, I think, has been excellent, and I can't wait to get Ali Love back as well. I think that'll be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going on what you were saying, Craig, I think I'd like to see Splain and Gomez play in the middle a bit more. I think they would complement each other really well. And on Barry Cuddihy, he was my, without Goody, who's your positive note? Barry Cuddihy, he just brings so much energy and drive to wherever he plays. At the moment we're using him for the right back, wing back position, whatever it is. And he's doing really well, but you see him naturally want to drive into midfield.
Yep,
and
definitely.
When he was on the show, he was saying that he prefers, midfield. So ideally, in January, we'd like to get a right back to allow Barry to go in, and a midfield three, Cuddihy, Gomez, and Splain sounds pretty decent to me. On the positives of the season, though, we'll probably run out of time, but I did pick out some key results throughout the season that I wanted to go on with. So the first one was Montrose 2, CLYDE 2. Obviously the disappointment of Dumbarton, rung through all CLYDE fans and team ears. We conceded two goals in the second half. We frustratingly did really well in the first half, holding them out, and then conceded 2 silly goals. But we came back. We showed that character that we've got under Danny Lennon, and Ali Love comes up with another very important goal for CLYDE. And then our first win of the season against Alloa, after probably one of the arguably worst results in CLYDE's history against Broomhill. It was all doom and gloom, and we thought, Barry's going to come and absolutely gub us. This is going to be horrible. But we won that. We played quite well. That was clearly a game where both teams wanted to win. Didn't have the best starts to the season, but David Goodwillie started his goal-scoring prowess. And then the last one I've got is just the Cove Rangers result. So this result shows that we can clearly mix it with the big full-time teams, especially at home. We've done very well at home. It's probably where we're going to pick up most of our points this season. But David Goodwillie's Di Canio-esque scissor kick kind of brought the feel-good factor to all of us. And I, for one, enjoy watching that on a Sunday morning every week, just to get me ready for Monday. And to be honest, if it happens in the English Premier League, it's going viral. So, again, there was a penalty given away, but it's a big win. And, from those 3 results, we've shown key characteristics of how we can go throughout the season. We're not going to give up. We're going to fight until the very end. And Clyde fans need to remember that and get behind the team, even if we're losing right up until the final minute. But I don't doubt that we will. We can mix it with the big teams. We can play well. We can beat them. And then if there is a result that doesn't go our way, we've got the character to come back and push forward and, get the points the next game. So those are my 3 key takeaway positives from the first quarter.
Yeah, I think character's a good word. I think they've showed that a lot. All right, at times it's been lacking, but certainly in a few games. Look at the last minutes, last 2-3 minute goals that we've had, and that takes a lot for teams to do that, especially the Queen's Park game when Goody missed the penalty, and you think, right, that's it, and then you goes on and gets that last minute goal. It's great. That's good, and it's also shown that we're not that far behind the full-time fitness level. I know it's still early in the season and it's a long way to go when the winter kicks in and what have you, but that's positives.
But that's a big thing, Craig. You've got all these times that train, full-time, and it's not that long ago we were obviously in League 2, and going on some earlier comments, I totally appreciate that the promotion winning season was fantastic and probably one of the best days of my life, to be honest, as a Clyde fan, but we've got to take stock of it. We've stepped up. We're in a completely different league, completely different circumstances against completely different teams. We can't compare the 2 squads anymore. But I don't think we can say that we've taken a backward step in squads. It's a completely different rebuild. And maybe critically, in the first couple of seasons we were there, we held on to people too much, that got us there. And this is us trying to transition. So, just get behind the lads and, trust in Danny, and it'll work out. But I think we'll do well to remember that it's not League 2.
Talking about key personnel, John's highlighted again that he's looking forward to seeing the rest of a fully fit Taddy, 100%. He has changed a couple of games when he's come on recently. So I completely agree with that point. I think Taddy has looked the business when he's come on. So looking forward to him getting fighting fit and match fit and getting chipping in there, hopefully as well.
So we do have obviously Big Gregory now on the fringe of first team activity. He's now played, I think, three substitute appearances. We do have Ali back. He came back. Second half sub at Airdrie. Jonathan Page as well back, full time training. Hopefully not too far away. Again, looking at the wider picture, we don't really know how the defence would have shaped out if Jonathan was in the kind of frame as well. So we've got things to look and say, well, this might improve things as well. Boise, we're going to come to you and your opponent dossier, your new weekly slot, where you're going to give us the fact file. You're going to tell us how we're going to break down Montrose again, as we do have a bit of a hoodoo over them, don't we?
Yeah, we've done really well against them recently. Perfectly, Robin has spoken in the comments about Montrose transitioning without a League One cheat code in their part-time. So I think this goes back to the fact that Montrose, in my opinion, run things very well. They have their own stadium, they get their own income, they're sustainable that way. And they've been building that for years. They are seeing the fruits of their labour that way just now, and I really hope that Clyde can set up to do the same, because that's the benefits of it. They're looking to get to the Championship and become sustainable. We'd obviously spoken about that in our interview with Gordon, the chairman, a few months ago. So I think that's why they've transitioned. I'll quickly put that to you guys. I think that sums that up.
Yeah,
I think Montrose historically, going back years and years, when you were playing Montrose, you're thinking we should be beating Montrose. Come on, it's not like that anymore. They really have upped their whole structure, as you said, and become far more professional in everything that they seem to be doing. And they've got a decent side. They've showed that with where they finished up in the playoffs last season.
They do the basics right. I've always kind of it's annoying when you play them, because when you take stock and look back at a game, you just almost taking the fact that they're playing us out of it. They're just a good team to watch. Like they're just well drilled. As I said, do all the basics right, and they really just know their strengths and they play to them. And they've just got good. They've got good people in all the kind of key positions, so they've their strength throughout their team. So yeah, from that perspective, I do enjoy watching Montrose, but equally I don't hope to enjoy watching them tomorrow. I hope we play our game and we play to our strengths, and that we're not talking about how good they were. We're talking about how good we were tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure we're in for an exciting game. The games against Montrose are always, very as we saw up at Montrose Ellsden this season. And John's saying Montrose have done well with loan moves over the last few seasons, maybe to do with location as well, up at that Dundee Angus area. So back to the #opponent dossier. Oh God, I just did that, didn't I? I'm so sorry. So Montrose are, obviously they were much fancied to make the promotion playoffs again after an excellent season last year, as we've just touched on. And they got off to the perfect start. They took 10 points from an available 12 in their first 4 games, and everyone thought, Montrose, they're going to be up there. But since beating Fife on the 21st of August, they haven't won in the last 5 league games, which was quite surprising when I looked this up. Taking 3 points on 15, which, if you were a Montrose fan, you'd be worrying. Their danger man is Graham Webster. Now, similar to David Goodwillie, he's got a decent amount of goals in League One. He's got 8 and 9, and he's scored in 7 games of those 9, which clearly shows he's their talisman. So that's the negative. Let's spin it. The positive. There's only a few players that have scored apart from Graham Webster. Lewis Milne is on 2, and then there's a few others with 1 each. So if we keep Webster quiet, as we did with Rory McAllister and Mitch Megginson, the penalty, I'll concede. McAllister did score, but that's a penalty. If we can keep him quiet, we should be fine. They are unbeaten away from home so far. They've scored 7 and conceded 2, but we've done really well at home. We've picked up a lot of points, so I think there will be goals. I think it'll maybe be a 2-each draw. Going on the Scotland-Israel game, I'd like to say a 3-2, a nice wee last-minute winner, and scenes similar to Hampden and the Broadwood stands. As I always say on this show, Andrew Steeves, fantastic player. They like to play on the wings. Mm-hmm. With their new 3-5-2 is the question I'm going to put it to you guys. With that 3-5-2, will they get the same joy potentially against the 4 at the back that we had? So with our 3-5-2, will they do well?
I would hope not. I would say that it's one of these things. Is anyone else getting...
You going swimming? You in swimming pool?
I have no idea what's going on there. Try that again. I would like to think that the kind of 3-5-2 and 5-3-2 that it can transition to could help nullify their kind of main threats, as you mentioned, Boise. Very kind of down the wing, prominent attacks.
Game plan,
and Steve's, they've been brilliant at it for years, even when they were in a League 2 side with ourselves when Stuart Petrie joined them. That was their game plan. They stuck to it and they were damn good at it. So yeah, I hope that
I think that's
a real benefit of that formation.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that Montrose done really well. They've had an identity for years and they've played the same way, and they stick to it. Maybe they don't have a plan B. Maybe they have to go down the wings.
Maybe that's their weak point then, is they don't have a plan B, and equally if we can exploit their plan A, then that's how you win.
Absolutely, but yeah.
Let's hope Danny and Murray are watching. That's their tactics thing for them all.
It's a sad
going to get requests for the dossier.
If they're taking tactical advice from us, then I think we're in bigger trouble than even the most disappointed fans so far this season. Boise, is that your dossier done? I've just got a couple of shout outs to do before, or you a few more
the
things?
The file is closed.
Is it closed? Right. Well, hopefully it'll be back next week as I think it's Cove.
Yeah, it's
Cove
the
following week. So we look forward to your dossier next week. So yeah, just a couple of quick shout-outs from the club they've asked me to pass on. So you will have noticed on the website that there is a draw to celebrate the milestone appearances of both David Goodwillie and Ali Love, who have now surpassed 150 and 100 appearances for the club. You can buy tickets to win signed jerseys of either one or both of the players signed with Goodwillie 150 or Love even 100 on the back. You can get a single ticket for £10 or £15 for a chance to win them both. And you can find the details on the club shop. The David Goodwillie 100 mugs are on sale tomorrow in the club shop. So if you're looking to get your hands on that, another milestone bit of memorabilia to show the grandkids one day as you wax lyrical about our saviour, please do get them before they sell out, because I'm sure they will. And tomorrow's match, all the kind of entry details can be found on the website. Boyce, do you want to quickly give the guys any stream details if you have them?
Yeah, so the live stream for tomorrow, as Paul stated, that will be shared on the CLYDE website and the match preview, but you can also find it at Twitter at CLYDE FC Podcast. And yeah, the commentary will start at 5 to 3. You can hear my dulcet tones called CLYDE's 3-2 win. And in the next few games, I've got some special guests lined up for the co-commentary slots. So there might be some ex-players, some legends, and maybe we'll even have a podcast takeover. So keep tuned for that. But yeah, it starts at 5 to 3, and all details can be found on our channels.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. Right, that's it. It's time, guys. It's time to go and enjoy your weekends and hopefully enjoy 3 points come 4:45 tomorrow. It's been brilliant being back. Craig, Lynn, John, pleasure as always to talk all things CLYDE. Everyone involved in the comments, Robin, Mark, John, Blue Eyes, I can't remember who. There was a lot. Thanks for getting involved. As I say, this is all about opinions and it's good to have the discussion. Hopefully, 9 games time, we get together and we're sitting just a wee bit higher up the league and we're all thinking really, really positively. So until next week, we will be back. There's no jet setting or anything this time. We will be back this time next week. And yeah, until then, come on the Bully Wee.
On a CLYDE.
On the football team.
On a CLYDE.